This is lesson 2, right? Having created our building outline and blocked out the areas into which we can't draw, I'm now going to start making components that are 2D representations of these program elements. It may seem a little complicated at the outset, so I have a component here, and this component is called the gallery 2,000 square feet. I'm using component attributes to assign a length in the x direction and a length in the y direction to this component, and then a function to calculate the area, which is simply the length times the length x times the length y divided by 144. Why? Because SketchUp counts in inches, and we want a result in square feet, so 1 square foot is 144 square inches. Right? If you think about that for a little, it should be easy to figure out. Right? So I'll show you how to create it from scratch. That's my gallery 2,000 square feet component. Let's create this technology space component, which is supposed to be 1,000 square feet. So I'm going to basically draw a rectangle. Right. And measure its x and y value by drawing dimensions on it. You want to draw within the rectangle itself so that it doesn't extend beyond the perimeter of that rectangle. So now when I select all of this and make it a component, I'm going to call this tech space 1,000 square feet. And when I go to Window Component Attributes, I'm going to add the length in the x direction as an attribute. I'm going to add the length in the y direction as an attribute. And for a third attribute, I'm going to enter a custom name called area in square feet. Oops. Can't have spaces. Area dash SF dash SQFT. How about that? Letters and numbers. Okay. Area. Let's just call it area. And that is going to be a calculation. We use the equal sign. It's pretty simple, kind of like spreadsheet stuff. Length x times length y divided by 144, or divided by 12 twice. Right? So that's calculating the area based on what those dimensions are. This part is a little bit tricky, so now, for orders of magnitude, I can play around, I can modify the boundaries of that rectangle. So I'm taking the edges and moving them. It's roughly 40 by 26 now. when I close this component and I select that area attribute and hit apply, it recalculates it. So that's about 1,000 square. The gallery is about 1,000 square feet. If I wanted it exactly, I could type in, now I could, roughly based on these dimensions, I could take, say I wanted one dimension to be 40 feet, I could divide 1,000 divided by 40. I'm doing this on a calculator. That means 40 by 25 would make this thing 1,000 square feet. All right? So with this selected, I can simply assign a length in the x direction, 25 feet, enter, and the length in the y direction, 40 feet, enter, and notice it just recalculates the area there. So there's my text space. I only need one of those. Maker space, 2,000. That's going to be similar as this. Of course, I can copy these. I can take my gallery space, edit, copy it, and then edit, paste it. Right? So this is a copy of that component, but I can right-click and say make this unique. If I go into, if I go to Entity Info, I can rename this thing to, what was I doing? Makerspace. 6,000. Right? I can even add labels to these, and I recommend. I'm not sure why that changed in value, but that's easy enough to fix. 600 images. Alright, so I can double click this and type a label on it, text on it. If I use 3D text, it'll remain there when I, let's call this maker space 6,000 SF. So this component is still, the area is still the same because it's 2,000 square feet, because the area is calculated from the length in the x direction and the length in the y direction. So these are simple shapes. So this is my that's my gallery. I'm going to double click it and label it gallery 1. Okay. Keep in mind, if you're using 3D text, you can't modify it afterwards, so let's use 2D text to modify this shape, which was my text space. Double click it. Remember, always type inside the space. Text. I'm just drawing text on this face. tech. What did I do? It's giving, that's interesting, it's giving me the square footage of the face. Tech space 1000 square feet. So if I close this group now, close that component, I want to make sure this area doesn't change. Yeah, that's okay. So we're good with that. I'm going to do a space for each of these program elements, and then we're going to continue recording when I've done that. So I've created a component from all the program elements. Notice this gallery element, of which there are 4, is just repeated as a component, so any change to any one of them will modify the others because they're identical. There's a makerspace 2000 text space. Now we have, since these are net calculations, or I'm assuming they're net calculations, there were provisions on the total for the public part of this program of circulation. I'm not sure how the outdoor space figures in. I'm not sure whether you're allowed to appropriate outdoor space, so I'm leaving that out. We can talk about that at a later time. 30% circulations, 4,200. We're assuming that should include stairwells, corridors. 30% is a large number, but let's say I were to imagine all this on one floor, and I I'm just going to copy one of these components and make it unique. So I'm copying the text space. I'm going to select it, right click and say make unique. I'm going to modify this now, and I'm going to call it circulation 4200. It's a large number, and it'll have to take some form, so it's going to take provisional form. If we were to make this into, say, a 6-foot wide corridor, I could take 4,200 divided by, let's make it easier, 10 feet. So 4,200 divided by 10, 420 feet. That's a pretty long corridor. So I could take this object, which is now called text space, let's go to entity info and just rename it, circulation. Right. It isn't changing the name there, but that's all right. We know what that is. We're going to make the X (420 feet) and the Y length 10 feet. Okay, so that represents 4,200 square feet of circulation, which we've budgeted for the public part of the program. Let's just copy this and make it unique. circulation, private. Not sure you want to separate those, but let's just allocate the program as it's planned. And this is going to be 20% or 640 square feet. So that means divide 640 by 10. This is only going to be 64 feet long. I can select this component. The length X is going to be 64 feet. All right, so very simply, for now, ignoring the building itself, if we were to arrange all these elements along circulation path, this is how our schematic design might look. I'm not examining or paying attention to adjacencies, which, clearly are relevant and have to be integrated. So I'm just taking the elements of the program to get an idea spatially what it is that we're contemplating. Bathrooms are likely to be grouped together. So I'm going to pause this and then arrange these, look at the result, and we'll talk about it after. Okay, so this is the first attempt at putting together roughly, I've done it outside of the building space, right? These are scale representations of the programmatic elements for 2,000 square foot galleries, a coat check that's 500 square feet, a makerspace of 2,000, 100 square foot, 1,000 square foot bathrooms, employee lounge, security area of 300 square feet, back of house 2,000, arranged around 4,200 square feet of very linear circulation. So this gives us a, kind of a graphic, spatial, scalar representation of what it is that we're doing. We start with this, and then in our next lesson we're going to apply it to our building.